I don't know. Drugs are out, sex is out, politics are out. Everything is on hold. I mean, we definitely need something new. Just keep waiting for some new voice to come out of somewhere and just say, hey.
Whoops.
I don't know. Drugs are out, sex is out, politics are out. Everything is on hold. I mean, we definitely need something new. Just keep waiting for some new voice to come out of somewhere and just say, hey. On to business. I got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and I got my blackjack gum here, and I got that feeling. Yeah, that familiar feeling that something rank is going down out there.
It's a Friday once again.
Far away for me to far away.
On the fringes of what passes for reality. Tonight, a coexistence duality flickers into view. Part fevered fable, part mosaic of mysticism. One conjured by the poet prophet of my co-host JP, a hymn of haunted hearts and heavy truths. The other, a savage scripture of steel and sin, forged by the cosmic craftsmen Michael Moorcock and Howard Chaykin, where pulp philosophy pirouettes in a danse macabre, dragging its feet in a patient, pertinent march across the page. The transmission is not tonight for the faint of frontal lobed. It is for the seekers, the surrealists, the seers, the stubborn few who still believe that words wield weight and pictures punch through platitudes like prophecy through parchment. So steel your senses, stoke your synapses, and step beyond the veil into a realm where storytelling still sings like a siren with blood on her lips, beckoning you ever closer to the rocks because we still believe. Welcome to the gutter. Everyone ends up here eventually. It is only a matter of time. I apologize for everything my co-host was just doing. JP, how are we doing tonight?
Good, man. You know, I don't think I've ever expressed this to you before, but you are able to assemble an intro trailer like nobody's business. Like I can never, ever hope to achieve the catchiness and relatability of the trailers you make. They're like instant classics.
My skill at film editing it fails me somewhere around 2 minutes. But if I'm only doing 90 seconds, man, I'm money. Just ask Mrs. Aldous. She'll tell you. It happened at least twice. Let's check and see what's going on in the chat. We got Citizen Ronan. Okay, I'm here. Well, welcome. Good to see you, man. I can see the chat is starting off with an enthusiastic roar because, man, tonight is a special night. We've got the launch of Eudaimonia 3. I'm hoping Snugs is dropping the link in the chat, and we'll get to see how your campaign's doing so far. But you did wonderful over on Bancrofts. You did not have a JP moment, which I was impressed with. I thought there'd be a JP moment.
What is that exactly? Could you be
Oh,
more...
that's where you say something really off kilter and off color.
Well, the night is young.
Yeah, something like this. I am Blore, dictator of Uranus. Take me to your ruler. That would be something that I would expect you to say. But you did not, and I was impressed by it. As were a great number of people.
I was able to contain my spurg.
You were able to contain your Blore. Snugs has joined us. He says, "What's up, chat? Good to see you, Snugs." Scrolling down, we've got Eric Grant. Eric Grant has joined us. I've been here for an hour, but I need to maintain kayfabe and pretend I don't care about JP's books. Cam has joined us. Great to see Cam. I was talking to Cam before the show. Things are so weird with where they're at. If you compare it to like where everything was a few years ago, Cam and I were, commiserating a little bit on that. It was a good conversation. Scrolling now, we got Hostman's Lounge. He has joined us. Henry Bemis has joined us. As always, wonderful to see you, Mr. Bemis and Mr. Hostman's Lounge. Oh, scrolling down, we got everybody saying hi to each other. Hojo has joined us. He says, "Woo! Did the intro take poppers? The intro has might be one drink deeper into the evening than they normally are." Citizen Ronan, director of Uranus. Indeed. Dictator of Uranus. I can't read tonight. Jesus, man. Belmont has joined us. Hey, everybody. From what I saw earlier today, Pencils Down is going to print early, which was fantastic. Congratulations, nice. Belmont. That's a good book. Everybody needs to go check it out. It's got some good gags in it. Scrolling down, who else we got here? Henry Bemis says, "I'm drinking a plate of coffee in memory of David Lynch." Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Hojo says, okay, I was in the wrong chat. Everybody needs to move over to the Gutter channel because as of the first week of July, we will no longer be simulcasting this across the LCH Comics channel and the Gutter channel. It's only going to be on the Gutter channel. And I do apologize. Last week, I had a rather long day. It was about a 19-hour day. And I just didn't have time to pull a show together. Originally, I was going to go over the book that we will be covering in the latter half of this show. But I didn't have time to pull everything together. So I did the rerun, and I posted that only over on the Gutter channel. So if you missed that, make sure tomorrow you go and check that rerun out. It's a really good one. It's on it's the first episode of a series that I haven't continued yet, but I will be on the history of underground comics. So there's that. Crazy Mad says, fuel. I'm saddened by that. Well, it's all I had. JP offers me very little in his singing repertoire, so I only had that one handy.
Well, you made me stop singing 2 days ago.
I did, because it was awful, but that one was good, kind of. Citizen Running says, seeing JP once tonight was enough, for fuck's sake. You know what I love about the chat here on the Gutter is they're so supportive of us individually. They're our biggest fans, and by fans I mean we don't need enemies because they hate
somebody make sure to clip my trying to break Aldis's opening monologue with the power of dance.
Crazy Man says, don't be scared of the cam all this. You're not as grotesque as you might think. No, I just don't want to give you any wank material, Crazy. That's all it is. Hop in the back room, man. I'll go. Camera's going on tonight in the back room for all this. How's that? Scrolling down, Hojo saying, hail to the chat. And Hostman's Lounge, whoa! So that's what JP looks like. Indeed. Citizen Ronin drops an act. And out of all that is good and all that is right, normally we reserve the acts only for the Wednesday show, but for tonight, I'll allow it. I've been working too hard to give me a heart attack. And that's enough, Kathy. But yeah, so scrolling down, what else we got? A sandwich launch, you say? Indeed. And Kayla joined us. Apparently, Kayla's here. I'm late and I'm here and I'm laggy. Well, welcome back.
Watching me dance right now.
There you go. My internet was actually out until about an hour and 15 minutes ago. So the show almost got canceled, but here we are. We did make it. Kayla's saying hi to everybody. Awesome one saying boo to the Gutter channel. Well, that's not nice. Why would you boo the channel for the show that you watch every week, man? Kayla says, I'm on the I Still Believe, and then I'll fast forward. Well, there you go. You gotta make sure you pause and just appreciate the saxophone player, Kayla. I know you appreciate that. So Hojo says, Belmont, you went to print? You didn't pay your bills with the funds from backers? What the fuck? Oh my God, we're gonna cover that on Wednesday because it's not gonna be beaten like a dead dog by then. But it'll be a good time. We'll have, I'm sure, at least one fresh take. What else we got? Crazy Mad says, you actually plan this atrocity? I thought you winged it. No, dude, I write my there are weeks where I spend more time writing the intro monologue than I do actually reviewing the material we cover for the rest of the 45 minutes of the show. So speak of that, what you will. Hojo says, Kayla, I hope you enjoyed the vacation. Loved the shark pics. And Kayla says, I love the Still Believe video. Yeah, I know you did. Everybody loves that one. What else we got? Hojo says, send me turtles. I think that might confirm that Hojo's on the spectrum. What do you think, JP?
I mean, he's a Ravens fan, so yeah.
Ooh. We're starting early. Oh my God, a wild pixel trader has joined us. Go check out Merkmaid over there on Fund My Comic. He's doing good stuff. Pixel's an old friend, and he goes through phases, man. Pixel can just disappear for a while, and then he comes out with a bunch of great ideas. The general problem is there are just not enough adults in the scene to help Pixel actually implement his ideas. But I'm hoping this time around Pixel's able to find a couple of people that are really willing to help him. If you're an adult and you're mature and you're willing to, do a bunch of stuff that's going to, really help out indie creators in the space, and you don't need to get paid or you don't want to get paid for it, by all means, DM Pixel because he's got some cool stuff going. I will probably help him out as much as I can. Because he does have some pretty good ideas out there for what's going to be coming. Because we got to do something, right? We got to do something, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, scrolling down, Kayla says, "I am not from the trash of New York." Oh man, did somebody say that Kayla's from New York? Because that always makes her upset. She's going to be upset in the back room now. We're going to hear about this. After seeing that Jeremy is a bald Italian Mexican, Jeremy is not a bald Italian Mexican. I don't know where you get that. But yes, indeed. All right. Hojo says his son is obsessed with turtles, which then, of course, makes me wish that I already had the I Like Turtles video pre-recorded up here, but I don't. So we're going to move on. Oh, man, what else we got? Hojo says, "Shut it, crazy mad. You sound like a Steelers fan." And Eric Grant says, "Adult, mature, willing to do a bunch of stuff. What exactly are you talking about here, all this?" Well, look, Pixel has some likes. He has some things he enjoys, and he's just looking for people that enjoy the same things he does. Indie
Does this
comics.
involve a goldfish bowl and a set of keys?
Nope, just a gerbil and a paper towel tube.
Mm.
So it's all on the up and up.
Well, we're
And
getting
Hojo
speed.
says, "Oh, LOL, that's not as bad. I'll tussle your hair." Well, on that note, JP, tonight you launched the third installment of the Eudaimonia series. You are up to 17 backers and well over your funding goal. So congratulations on that. Let's reload it real quick and see if we've gained anybody since we last checked it. The link is in the description if you're on the Gutter channel. If you're not on the Gutter channel, the link is not in the description. And but hopefully the people in the chat and or the people over on Twitter are dropping the link so that you can check it out. But tell us a little bit about this. Tell us something that you haven't told before in all of your 7 days of pre-posting the link and promoting it on your Twitter campaign, and then as well as the over an hour that you spent with Bancroft. Speak of something that nobody knows about this.
Well, I mean, I'll say two things. The first one being there's a lot of people who want to talk about growing the indie scene and like supporting each other, and they all have that all wrong. If you want to really build up the indie comic scene, the only book you need to buy is mine. So you can forget about all the other books you've seen out there, maybe by people you like, maybe things that seem more interesting to you than this. This is the only book you should buy. And the other thing I'll say is if you don't back this book, you're a piece of shit.
That's an interesting sales strategy. So you're implying that if anybody's on the fence, if they haven't already jumped on board,
yes,
if they're not willing to jump on board, if there's something in the campaign that they're like just questioning just a little bit, you're like, yeah, just fuck you, don't bother.
Yeah, I mean, not buying this book is basically the same thing as supporting Al Qaeda.
Ooh, really?
And communism.
Well, here on the Gutter, we all hate communists. Everybody knows that. But Crazy Mad brings up a really solid point. 95% of all the indie scene books suck. Could you? Why does your book not suck?
Oh, I mean, I guess it does. You know.
Do you use words?
Yeah, I've been known to use a word or two.
Do those words come together in the form of some kind of structure that you read top to bottom, left to right, and they have implicit meaning and structure, and there's layered meaning within the context of how the words work with the art on the page?
None of it is manga, if that's what you're asking.
Does it read so it does not read left to right or right to left, it reads left to right?
No, it also doesn't read diagonal or fourth dimensional hypersexual.
Ooh. What about hyposexual?
Yes, it is. It is absolutely hyposexual.
Okay, so not hyper, but hypo.
Yes.
Very good, very good. When reading this in public, do you need to wear a muzzle at all?
No, but there is a pretty strong chance that you'll get an erection, and if you're a woman, the chances double.
That's impressive. You're redefining biology.
I mean, yeah, groundbreaking.
How are you able to do that within the context of just text and images? What is it about it? Do you have some kind of occult mysticism that's going on in the pages itself?
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to, I'm sorry, they're making a Netflix documentary about my processes currently. And I was on the phone with George Lucas the other day, and he was saying, like, JP, you got to tell me what your methods are, or I'm going to delete the entire Star Wars franchise. And
Oh,
I said, George, listen, baby, I just can't do it. So Star Wars is going to be over with tomorrow. Um, and on top of that, the Israelis were really trying to get their hands on Eudaimonia, like a first print Eudaimonia.
I was going
And
to ask you about
they
that.
were
Were
so angry they
were the
bombed
print files
Iran.
stored in Tehran?
I mean, no, but I told them that it was, so that might explain what's going on.
Gotcha. Because I know a couple weeks ago you said that the print files were making their way through Islamabad, and that's why India declared war on Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah. That, I mean,
And we all know that, a couple years back, you had all the print files stored in Kiev, obviously, and that's why Russia invaded.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So
Mhm.
indirectly, Eudaimonia, your book is responsible for the start of World War III.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's why I really got to get it out there to as many as people as possible, because I really think that if a lot of people have this book, it's going to end all disease and world hunger.
So I don't think ending world hunger is as much of a win as you think it might be.
Oh no, this book makes you really, really hungry, for both food and dance.
Oh, and dance.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about those communities in southern Iowa where dancing is banned?
You know what? I think some works of art are worth going to jail for. And to be specific, there's three, and it's Eudaimonia 1, 2, and 3. They're the only books that are worth going to prison for in this or any other jurisdiction.
Pixel Trader says he's not high enough for this stream.
Well, we're gonna keep doing this until somebody backs it. So we need
Pretty
to
much.
be able,
Shall we
for the
check?
sake of the gutter, we need to be able to
We are
say
not.
that one person has backed
We
on
have
this
we
stream.
have gained one backer. We are at
Woo!
18. We're at 11:06 now, so we can move on to another topic.
Okay.
So in addition to everything else that's and we will drift back to your book here throughout the night, JP. I don't want you to think that I'm abandoning your launch
Oh, I
on
deserve to be
a
abandoned.
special night. And I think now's a good time as any to remind everybody that as of this upcoming Wednesday, June 18th, the third issue of Vatican City 3, Mark Miller and Per Berg's series comes to an end. It's available. So make sure if you haven't, this weekend's a wonderful opportunity. It's Father's Day on Sunday. So call your local comic shop and make sure you get 2 copies, one for both yourself and one for your dad, because this is the culmination. It's the conclusion of that 3-issue series. And if you're looking for that little something extra, always a reminder, Psychic Sam, the Mark Miller, John Romita Jr., JR, as he is called. That campaign is still live on Twitter with, I think, 26 days to go at this point. And with that being said, let's drift back to your book. So you've been moving the print files around the world. You've got a roving band of artists that's on this. What was your biggest challenge in putting this book together?
I mean, if I'm being like perfectly honest, most of the stories in here were already written, so probably converting them into comic book scripts, but that wasn't really challenging. I've encountered a lot of artists who are really hyped, who are really excited to be involved in this book, so not much. Probably this part where I put my dumb ass on the internet to try and sell the thing.
Gotcha. Kayla, in a completely calmed and reasonable way, asks me to refresh. God damn it! So I have refreshed, and we are now up to 1140, and we are at 18 backers. So congratulations! We're almost our goal for the end of the stream, ladies and gentlemen, is to get to at least JP to 20 backers. We're not concerned. I could care less, and I think JP's not of the same mindset as I am. He probably wants that monetary total a lot higher. I really don't care about the monetary total because I'm not involved in this book. I'm just looking at the number of backers. I'd like to get that backer count to 20. It'd be pretty cool if we could see that tonight. Citizen Ronan says, I wonder who backed.
Mm.
Do you have any thoughts on who backed, JP?
Probably my mother-in-law again.
Oh, again, that's good. It's always important for that. Pixel Trader says, I still want to understand how the fuck they're going to conclude it in one more issue with as much ground as they need to cover. I'm assuming you're referencing Vatican City. And that is a very good question. And while we're on the topic of Vatican City, here's the cover for Vatican City 3, which you will be able to get on Wednesday of the upcoming week. Looking forward to it myself. And hopefully I can talk Per into coming back like he did. You were gone, Arrogant Ape. Our producer stepped in your stead while you were on vacation, JP, and we got a chance to talk to Per, and things were good, man. That was a great show, and I'm hoping we can get Per back to talk about the completion of the series here with issue 3. Have you had a chance to read issue 2 yet?
No, I haven't, but I look forward to going to the LCS here and owning issues 1 and 3.
Do you not have a copy of 2 at all?
No, I was not even in the country.
I mean, so you didn't plan ahead and like set up a pull at your shop? They're holding it for you?
No, I went to my LCS this past Saturday at 1 in the afternoon, and they were closed.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, refreshing your campaign here, we're still at 18 backers, $1,140. We got I'm getting lots this Wednesday, says Hojo, and the next trilogy will be about Piccolo, Raiden. Oh,
Yeah.
Is the next trilogy going to involve a Piccolo, or are you going to focus on the cello, or are you done? Is this officially the end of the series?
Well, I was going to make a joke about somebody playing the anus flute, but yeah, this is the last Eudaimonia.
Why are you choosing to end it? Are you just looking to do more of the Noirlam series? Plus, I know we've talked a little bit briefly. You've mentioned it specifically of a Western book. Are those what you're looking to move forward with? Just some new stories? You feel that you've reached the conclusion of this?
Yeah, I mean, the overarching. So, book 1 is introducing the idea of Eudaimonia. Book 2 is introducing how it's seen amongst other people within the story of the first book. And the third book is basically covering the idea of Eudaimonia as being kind of universal. So there isn't really anywhere I can go beyond that unless I want to do like Eudaimonia in space. So yeah, that's pretty much the conclusion. But to answer your question, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing more Noirlam. I'm gonna work on that Western that we've been kicking around.
Yeah,
and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Crazy Mad says, I'm kind of mad I backed the wrong horse. I don't know how to die cover. Oh, you poor bastard.
Ooh.
That is a ooh. We don't talk about it.
Yeah, give me your PayPal, Crazy Man. I'll send you money as an apology.
That's harsh, man. I'm a huge fan of JP. I have been promoting Eudaimonia since issue 1, since I received it. I thought it was a amazing work. It's so incredibly different, and it's so experimental. I really think you've tapped into something. I think, in my opinion, this is really what, to me, crowdfunding is for these really unique, outside of the box kind of styled books. That you're always going to have success with your standard like Xerox cape shit. But you do really interesting things with this series, and it's fun. And then you carried that over in Noirlam and did a mystery series that's a little different than what most people did. And I think that's just kind of the hallmark of your work. But I think Eudaimonia is, to me at least, it's the masthead for what you represent as a writer. It's really a good. You're kind of bearing your soul a little bit, and you're exploring how you see the world, which is unique. And honestly, man, it's one of the reasons why I asked you to be my co-host here on the Gutter. I think you bring something that's very refreshing and unique to the indie comic space. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, but I'm just saying, like, I think you're really doing something special here. And I don't think you should end it on 3. I think this is something that, goodbye is a good closeout. and maybe go a couple years and do a couple books, but revisit this because I think what you've tapped into here is really special.
Yeah.
And I think these books will really age well with time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, now say something mean. This is worrying. Am I dying?
No. Well, from here, I mean, we're at kind of the halfway point, so I think now's a good time to do a little palate cleanser of an intermission, real quick, and we'll be right back, and we'll dive into another book by Howard Chaykin and Michael Moorcock.
Yeah.
Try some new Minute Maid orange tangerine. It's got calcium.
Then I'm not drinking it.
Oh, no, it's sweet. You'll like it.
I don't believe you.
Well, then who would you believe?
I don't know, Robert Loggia. Whoa, Robert Loggia.
Billy, your mother's right. New Minute Maid orange tangerine tastes great. It's got as much calcium as milk.
If you say so, Mr. Loggia.
Yeah.
This is great.
Enjoy your breakfast.
New Minute Maid orange tangerine with calcium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I still say the way Loggia looks at the mom and the way the mom looks back, Billy, that's not Dad's boy, man.
I mean, the kid looks like him.
That's what I'm saying. You can tell it's Robert Loggia. Even Billy knows who Dad is.
Yeah.
Before we dive in to talk about The Sword of Heaven, The Flower of Hell by Michael Moorcock and Howard Chaykin, I did want to take a brief moment. And I don't know if you were aware of this, because I know you've had a lot going on tonight, JP. I don't know if you were aware of what's going on in the Twitters, but Bancroft did a kind of a broadside against me and dropped this tweet. And he says, I just read Eudaimonia in preparation for tonight's launch of his third installment. And without hint of pretense, you may turn out to be the greatest writer working in the indies today. And when Bancroft throws something like that out against my co-host, I have to respond. So now, from now until the end of eternity, I will be doing nothing other than praising Rob for his ability to hang posters, because I cannot tolerate Bancroft just filling your head with this nonsense that you are one of the best writers in the, even though it's true, it doesn't matter. I can't have this. This is you're going to get a big head, then you're going to get an ego, then you're going to think you can do your own show, and the next thing you know, you're going to leave this show and all of the sponsorships that come with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Aldous. I should ditch this show.
Wait, what? That wasn't. Damn
it.
Sheldon Martin's joined us. He says, I now know that Loggia tells lies. Loggia does not tell lies. Henry Bemis says his guttural yeah is disturbing.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it is not. That is music to everybody's ears. That is the Robert Loggia song. Oh man. But so the book that we were going to talk about tonight is it's unique, and there's, I guess it's hard to talk about because there's a lot of positives, but there's a lot of it's not negative, it's just weird.
Yeah, a lot of penises.
It is, and that book is The Swords of Heaven, The Flowers of Hell by Howard Chaykin. It is actually the second graphic novel that was released by Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal Presents. The first one being their adaptation of Dan O'Bannon's Alien, which was directed by Ridley Scott. This was the second installment in that, and it's unique because Chaykin was not a name at this point. This is 79. He hasn't really established himself. He's still kind of up and coming, and he's doing a lot of really experimental stuff. Some of it really works in this book, and some of it doesn't. And that's important to say. But like I said, the art is all done by Howard Chaykin. Here's the man himself. I think Chaykin, and I know I was talking with Kayla earlier today, Chaykin's up there in his ability to formulate a story with the likes of Byrne and Claremont. He doesn't have the arc based. He's not the kind of guy that you can really just like hand a book over to and really let him rock it for 10 issues. But for a single, like a one-off or a two or three miniseries, he's really good at this point in his career. And yes, he's this is the early part of where he's dealing with some substance abuse, but he's firing on all cylinders, and he really does some amazing stuff here. And of course, the story is based on the Eternal Gods or the Eternal Warriors series that Michael Moorcock, and here's Michael Moorcock. Both of these gentlemen are still living. Moorcock's like, I think 85 or 86 by now, but still going strong. The original version of this is kind of hard to come by. It's not terrible, but you're looking at like 70 to 100 for a really, really nice copy, and around 50 for a reader copy. Fortunately, back in 2018, Titan Comics reprinted it in this form. And for this copy with the Michael Moorcock library, they renamed it with Ericos, which is one of the characters in the Eternal Champions series. The Swords of Heaven, the Flowers of Hell. You're looking at about 15 to 25 for this. It's going to float between 20 to 25 new. You can dip down into the 15s to early, like low 20s used, depending on if you want to look at it on Amazon or not. In fact, if you go to Amazon, you can get it for about $18 right now if you're an Amazon Prime member. So it's a pretty good deal. It's 80 pages. It's a little higher in price than I'd like to see for 80 pages. However, I think it's a really good glimpse into early Chaykin. And so it's a nice, affordable entry point because there's a lot of great Chaykin that you can't get for this price point. And this is 70.
Is this a recommend?
It's we're going to pause on the recommend.
Okay.
Go through a little bit of the art and talk about some stuff first. If you're not familiar with Michael Moorcock as an author, Michael Moorcock is the creator of Ulrich. You might better know the character of Ulrich as The Witcher, since the guy that wrote the Witcher series pretty much ripped off Ulrich completely for The Witcher. But that's kind of the style. It's a fantasy sword and sorcery style. It's a classic. If you go back into the early stages of D&D, everybody was mocking and ripping off Ulrich books. Just the same as everybody rips off like R.A. Salvatore now. It's those two are peas in the pod. They're just like about 10 years to 15 years apart as far as their effect on the D&D community. But it's a really good book. It's a standalone, and it's a continuation of a series that had been going. And I guess before I delve too much into it, what were your takeaways from the story on this, Reid?
Oh, an acid trip, weirdly erotic, and I mean that not in the sense of not just the erotic scenes, but a lot of the language is very sexually charged. A lot of talking about like swords quivering in their, what's that word? What's the word for the thing you put the sword in?
Sheath?
Not vagina.
Well, vagina is actually a derivative of sheath
in
the Latin.
Yeah, so, but like really gorgeous to look at the same time. And also, I have many questions about the layout because you're such a layout whore.
Yeah, I am a layout whore. And congratulations, Ben. We are at 19 backers. You are at $1,174. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I am a layout whore, and we're gonna get into that. I've covered the title pages, and I want to turn to the chat real quick just to give a little bit of touch on that before we move on that. What else we got? We got Loggia was great in the gangster vampire movie in the 90s. It's so cheesy, but I love it. Well, Loggia's awesome in everything. Citizen Run says, wait, I would not told there would be dongs. Oh yes, there are dongs. It's 79 is when this book was released. I've censored all the pages that we will be showing today, but yes, in the context of the book, there is both male and female full frontal nudity. So there is that. I've censored it for your precious little
Something
delicate
for
eyes.
everybody.
But see, I've seen that art on many romance novels. Yes, indeed. Chaykin is insanely talented. Yeah, this is Chaykin. Chaykin he's not at his most experimental in this. He's doing some experimental stuff with layouts and panel structures and page layouts, but he's not really pushing the envelope. There's a couple pages where he really goes all out, but for the most part, he's a little restrained here, which is impressive for the time period, especially given that he was given kind of carte blanche by heavy metal to do whatever he wanted to do. Hojo says, I read some of this today. Thanks to our gracious host. I dig it. It's something special, and I would highly recommend. And again, you can get this. If you're just looking to check it out, don't buy the heavy metal version. Buy the Titan version, which is this version, because you can score this on the secondary market for like I said, like 15 to 20. If you're a collector, yes, the original by heavy metal does have an insane amount of collector value, but you're going to pay for that. And it you know what, I just want to say this briefly. It has a very early Hellboy kind of style to it. In how it's structured and you can see where the inspiration came from for some of the stuff that went on with BRPD. But that's
shout out to Sheldon Martin. He's a mover and a shaker.
Oh, is he? Well, there you go. You're catching up on chat better than I am, so thank you. I don't even see that. Where is it? God, I can't keep track of the chat. It keeps on jumping on me. But just to jump into the book a little bit, we already introduced both Chaykin and Moorcock. We're going to jump right into page 1. And if anybody is a fan of fantasy art, you're immediately going to recognize this page, because this is an homage to the Frazetta image of this. And that was originally commissioned as a title cover of The Silver Warriors by Michael Moorcock, which is part of this Eternal Warriors series. And that's entirely intentional because everything ties together. This is a story about souls that are completely I don't know. JP, tell me a little bit about the story as far as your thoughts on it.
Okay, well, okay, I swear to God, I read this whole thing and I didn't know a lot of what was going on. I only picked up on the fact that everybody was referring to heaven and hell and different planes of existence. So as far as the grander mythos of the world, a lot of that went over my head. I apologize. I've been a bit busy this week.
No, and it's completely understandable because this is a graphic novel where you really need to have read pretty much everything that Moorcock did. Like, you can read this graphic novel and it's fun and it's a good read. But you're missing all of the subcontext. You need to read about 7 novels, and then this book changes completely and becomes something pretty cool because it's got a little bit of pieces of everything in it. And it's simultaneously a huge miss and a huge hit. If you're a fan of Michael Moorcock's books, this is awesome. If you're not a fan or have no idea who it is, then you're going to be kind of confused at parts, and you're going to get lost in the weeds with some of the narrative bubbles, because this is also a very heavy dialogue book. But to get into it a little bit, it is splash heavy. And that's the other thing, is you have your standard, and Chaykin is notorious for this throughout the 70s and early 80s, the early part of his career. He says F you to the book binding, and just does splash pages that there's no split. He's working across the binding line, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. In a digital age, you can get these like this, and they're displayed very well, but you would be very hard pressed to get your physical copy to be this perfect.
I actually thought that on this double page, I thought it was a scan of the book that somebody had drawn a cartoon turkey leg in on the right.
No, this is actually
Okay.
the book.
Carry on.
Yeah, and that's Chaykin. And it continues. Again, here's another example of a double page spread where he's justifying. There's no rhyme or reason. He's doing wonky shit. He also is making some interesting choices with some blocked out imagery in the lower half of quadrants of people on the left hand side. The book itself has a shit ton of negative space, and it's Chaykin playing with negative space in a unique way. We've evolved past what he did with Byron Priest on Stars My Destination, where he's really playing with border lines and gutter lines. And now we're playing with negative space. And that's what I mean when he's doing experimental shit. It's not only do pages not have boundaries by the binding line, we're also playing with we're just going to do white panels. And we're going to do white gutters.
Well,
and
thank goodness the cod piece is well featured.
Well, there's that for sure, right? And he continues it throughout with you really using the negative space. And again, this is an era where he's really pushing the envelope and he's experimenting with it. And I think there's something that's lost in the years that have aged this. That I think by this point, if you've read a lot of stuff in the indie scene where people have really dived into this style, this isn't as shocking. But if you're not as familiar with it, I mean, you got to think back to this is 79. Chaykin is really pushing it with what he's doing here. He's got depth of backgrounds, but he's also using white just as powerfully as he used black or like some of the grays in Stars My Destination, which I think
like
was
the
their
black
third or fourth show with Dean. But yeah, he's really playing with color in an inverted way that you haven't seen before. And it's really unique and it really works at times. It's also a huge miss at times. But I'm just gonna flip through some pages, and it's the other thing. There's a very inconsistent coloring motif throughout this. It's very dreamlike, it's very ethereal. And I thought that's why it really paired well with your work, JP, because I think the artists that you've selected, you kind of have that in Eudaimonia as well. Across all the series, you kind of get this floating dreamlike essence that exists. And having read this, do you see any corollaries to your own work?
Well, I think the narration is very poetic. Like it reads a lot like poetic narration. And when you juxtapose that with the very, very curt, very direct dialogue, it creates for a really great kind of contrast between the two. But if you look at any given page and only focus on those orange rectangle boxes, it reads like a poem. Or maybe it reads like a poem or like progressive rock lyrics.
I would say it's closer to a progressive rock lyrics. There is a beat motif. Going back, gosh, what was it? Almost 2 years ago now, when we had Odin Dasko on and we were going over Warren Ellis's Fell. Warren Ellis, in that specifically, he talked about meter and cadence and how important it was to have that cadence to go along with the song that you're singing, because a comic book is a song. The music's just in your reader's head. And so you as the writer need to establish that cadence and that beat that they're following in accordance with the art. And when you blend those two, it really works. And I think this is Chaykin playing with that. Yeah. Chaykin's playing around with that cadence and the narrative bubbles. It is. It's a very, when you said it's a it reads like a progressive rock album. I think that's what he's trying to do. This is more of an art piece than a story. It has a story embedded in it, but the words are just as much a part of the art as they are a part of the story. And I think this is something that's kind of been lost. You don't see this too often. There's the constant back and forth online over the writer artist versus the artist writer, and do you have a writer and an artist, or do you have an artist that can write, and who does it better? And it's all subjective. But at the end of the day, I would just press pause on that entire discussion, and there's a handful of people, Bill Sikenovich and Howard Chaykin amongst them, in this era that are writer artists that are trying to do anything like this. So many of the others are trying to do this fast-paced bullshit. And it's like when the Matrix came out, then suddenly everybody tried to copy the Matrix. It's kind of that same thing. It's these guys are trying to do something deeper, and then Image drops in the early 90s, and everybody just kind of switches over and does that. And I think comics in the late 70s, early 80s were going down a really interesting path before that happened. And the sales boom, this is the sales boom, but I think they were reaching for a more of a Eurocentric kind of where Euro comics ended up and where Bande Dessinée ended up. I think American comics were definitely headed there with the independent and kind of the underground stuff, like what Heavy Metal was doing here with Chaykin. And I think that slowly developed, and I think it was broken by the late 80s and the early 90s with the hyper concept, the hyper action, and it really, I think, hinders what development you see here, because you lose it. It's lost. You don't see this too often anymore, other than the indie scene, like with what you're doing.
Well, here I have a question to kind of add on to that. Do you think, because you bring up 90s Image often, do you think that the quote unquote rule of cool was good or bad for comics as a whole?
Well, the rule of cool, I mean, look at this page, right? This is the rule of cool. You've got a static shot. It's a page spread. It's a single page splash with a little bit of action going on in it, but you've got a good story that you're enveloped in. There's a lot of people, especially artists, that are going to, always go on something like this and go, oh, that's narration heavy. Like, no, because you're captivated in the story. A good story, there's no such thing as too much narration. Look at early Spider-Man issues. Look at back when Ditko and Lee, Ditko primarily, were doing Spider-Man. And if you look at those early issues, those first 30 or so issues, there's not a prevalence of dialogue. They flow beautiful. They're elegant because the story fits the art. And that's part of the glory of comics. And I think that was lost at a certain point, because there's a lot of very daft people that, were really, really good artists that think they can just push their way in. And story doesn't matter as much as long as the art's face-meltingly awesome. Well, face-melting art's fantastic. But for those of us that are actually literate, that want a story, something was lost. And I think that's why you start seeing a drop-off in comics, because people that were actually literate, that are looking to read something, drifted away. And what you ended up getting was a circle jerk of artists just buying other artists' work because they liked it. There's no story there. And then you start getting the precipitous fall that you see going into the late 90s and the early 2000s. But something like this is, it's just beautifully experimental. Yes, sir, James Matson. Yes. And I'm sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. The 90s with artists like Liefeld never really found its footing. Yeah, they just couldn't find their legs to stand on at all. Suggs surprising considering his feet and flippers flapping on the floor. Well done, Hostman. Well done. But yeah, so what Chaykin's doing a lot of stuff here, and it's a lot of stuff that we've seen before. Like I said, going back, I think it was the 5th or the 4th episode, we talked to Dean about the Stars My Destination adaptation that Chaykin did. And you're seeing a lot of the same stuff here. He's overlapping gutters with people, but here, again, he's really playing with the inversion of the negative space. And I think that's really powerful in what he's done. And
I also love a good floor.
Yes. No, and the other thing he plays with too, and this is a great one, is he's balancing the narration with the structure of the page. So as the page flows down, in that you've got this skeletal giant who's body is erect, but the sword is drifting down to the lower right, and he follows the narration along the guideline. I like that. And then you get something like this, which is so wild. This is 79, man. And I want you to think like forward, and this is like a Duran Duran cover in about 6 years. That's how far ahead
Oh wow,
Chaykin's
yeah.
designs are. Is his stylings in this book in 79 are predicting where albums covers are going to be in about 6 to 7 years. And there is no more telltale of a great artist than they are predicting the trend with where they're headed. And it's a beautiful decision here with doing this again, because Chaykin's been playing this entire issue with the stark whiteness, right? And so here we use it, but we use it in a structured, guided form. Brilliant decision. Absolutely, it's a gorgeous book in that regard with how he's playing with it. But then we also get the inversion, and he plays with shadow. And this page I saved because I wanted to talk about the curtains. It takes so much talent to give depth and feel to a texture in a page. And this is it's almost a throwaway page, which is disgustingly in how awesome it is. But it's a testament to what Chaykin and Moorcock did with the story on this. That little happens, but I dwell so often on the folds of those curtains because they have depth and they have weight and they have feel, and they feel like they're closer to you than the monster in the back. And you feel like those folds are right there and you could reach out and touch them. It is just so magnificent what he was able to do. And right about the time that you're tired of hearing me praise of Chaykin, we get some pages like this where I think he's doing some really experimental stuff that just doesn't work. But I'm glad to see him trying. And this is kind of what I talk about to you a lot about in your work, JP. Sometimes it's just exciting to see people try shit, and that hasn't been done before. And
What
it's
about this
exciting
double
because it's
page
new.
immediately stands out to you as not working?
It's the double context of, if you look, you've got the face of Burt Lancaster, who they obviously reference for the main character, but then it blends, and then you've got like this weird hand that's just sitting there in the ether, and then it drifts into them embracing, and then it flows down, and it's a separate image of them embracing behind a heart, which I like. I like that individual moment, but then we get an immense amount of dead space. And then a really weird washed out double layered picture set, which doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and she's turning from a cappuccino into a latte.
Right. Awesome one actually calls it out. This page is like almost every video game box art for Atari. You are not wrong. That is an excellent call out, man. Well done. But it's frustrating because in the next set he does something like this, which I think is absolutely brilliant, because he's again playing with the negative space. He's playing with the white, and he's playing, instead of just with standard gutter panel lines or gutters, he's playing with curvature, and he drifts into a structure. And I think if there's any flaw in this book, it's that he's being a little too experimental. And he drifts and relies too much on the structure of the right hand side of this page as it's moving through the book. Like it tends to start off with some really experimental, great stuff that really works, and then he just kind of drifts back into like, I'm just going to do boxes. Then you get pages like this where it's a blend, and the story it kind of works for, but I don't know about you, but when reading it, every time I read this, I always get frustrated because it's like, man, I'm engaged. And then it's like, you're pulling me out just a little bit by just going back to that standard blocky structure.
Yeah, I had the one that I sent you of like the 4 bookmarks in a row that I wanted to ask you about, because it's like each one of those individually. I don't get this at all. Like, I want to see everything is cutting off the next one, but they're all so unique and interesting looking that I want to take in more of what's there, that I genuinely don't understand this.
No, and I think this is the failure of where Chaykin's trying to push the envelope. And I think this is why the book's special, is because he's trying things and they don't work. And this is something that's I think is really misunderstood, especially in indie comics. Because this is like arguably an indie book in 79. Even though it's published by Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal's not heavy metal in 79 as we know the heavy metal today. There's still a fledgling magazine, but they're trying something, and they're trying something different. And a lot of what Chaykin tries here really works. And some of it doesn't. And that's why if you're in the comic creation world, this is such a great book, because you can flip through it and see what didn't work and learn from that. And Chaykin's trying to do something different here. He's trying to do a layered, structured panel in a different structure than what was normally done, and it just doesn't work. And that's perfectly fine, because there's a lot of stuff in this book that does work, and it works really well. This page not working doesn't affect the grand context of the book. No different than, this page not really working affects the grand context of the book. It's still a good book, because at the very next, you get things like this, where we're really playing with something that's surrealist in where we're going with the narration in the context of the story. We don't need to have an overarching image, but we need to have something that bridges the gap between that realistic sense and the surreal. And so what are we going to choose? Well, in this context, it's the insect, right? We're going to do the face. And in the context of the story, that works, but it drifts. It gives you that bridge across, whereas in the page that you were talking about, there's no bridge. Like you go from a disoriented look to some kind of structure that slowly devolves. And I think that's important to, it's experimental. It doesn't work. We know why it doesn't work, but you can see why they tried it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what's kind of awesome and exciting about experimental artists is that ideally the hits make the misses worth enduring.
Right. No, and I think that's why. And you asked me earlier, is this book a recommend? I do consider this book a recommend. I think this is a wonderful book. If you're an indie creator, I think you definitely need to own this for 18 to 20 bucks for 60 pages of some really experimental stuff. I think there's a lot to inspire you here. If you're not an indie creator, if you're just a comic reader, this book is fantastic because it's so different than anything else that's out there, because it's Chaykin really, he's throwing a curveball at you, man. It's something wild, and he's trying something. And you don't see you see a little bit of this in American Flag. You see a little bit of this in some of his other stuff, but not to this level. He's really going the pedal to the floor and just throwing some shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And then based off the feedback from this, you can see how his style envelops. It's a really great snapshot of an extraordinarily creative person just trying something. And it would be, this is why I thought it was a great book to talk about with Eudaimonia, because you're doing the same thing that Chaykin's doing here. You've got an opportunity, and you're trying something. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But God damn it, at least you swung the bat, right? You didn't stand at the plate, and you didn't get caught out, looking. At least you took a swing,
or made a titty book.
Well, do you want to get into that? Because I can.
Go. Okay. Why don't you start in, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, okay. So this does have its sense of this does have some nudity.
Yeah, but it's not anywhere near the main selling point. It's a fantasy book,
right?
It's not just like some cheap schlock on Kickstarter with nothing beyond titillation.
Well, I think it does what a lot of the titty books do on Kickstarter, which is it ties into an existing franchise, right? In some way, shape, or form. In this, it ties into a very established novel franchise that Michael Moorcock had been working on for a decade prior. And yes, there's nudity within it. And yes, there are adult themes. However, it doesn't sell itself as that. It sells itself as a fantasy sci-fi story that's adult in nature and has adult themes, but is very mature in how it handles those themes. It doesn't position a female or a male in any way having their nudity as the express point of selling it. And I think there's something that's been lost in regards to that. I think we've become a little bit more of an immature society with how we look at things. And I don't have any kind of a justification for that, but I'm just that seems
What
to be
was
the
that?
impression.
We did read a book that I would call proto titty book. Remember the one where it was like that woman and her clothes just keep falling off every other page?
Yeah, and that was so that was Druna, and
Yeah,
but I also
I mean,
presented that as Druna is what Druna is, and
yeah,
Druna is it's an esoteric erotica book.
right.
It doesn't pull any punches. It is what it is. They and Pirelli really tries hard to formulate a story around it that has legs, and there is a pretty good sci-fi story that goes there, but it's not it's not pulling any punches. It's not pretentious at all in what it is. It knows that it is what it is. And that's not my style of book. And Kayla's completely right. I sound uncomfortable. I don't like those style of books. I don't like owning them. It's not the kind of thing. I look at it this way. When if I was to die tomorrow, my daughter was to go through my comic collection, I don't want her seeing those kind of books in my comic collection without an explanation as to why they're in my comic collection, because it's not about the erotica, it's about their poignancy in the history of comics. And yeah, you can call it bullshit, but that's just the way it is. Like, I don't own the entire series of Druna. And the same reason I like something like this, I just pass it over when you're looking at some of the nudity, because it works in the context of the story. It's not just a titty book. There are so many books on Kickstarter that are getting away with it's Harry Potter and this, and they're all anime girls with big tits. That's ridiculous. I'll be sure to slip a note in your copy of Merc Paper. Thanks, Pixel. I appreciate that. Well, was Dad some kind of pervert? Yeah, there you go. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. JP, I cannot thank you enough for having to go along this line of discourse. Thank you oh so much. But again, and this is, and I've said it a couple of times, but I want to highlight it when we go through some of these pages. You'll notice all of these pages. These are double page spreads, and they're all off center. I have never understood why Chaykin did this, but every page is off center with how it structures the double page spread. And I think it's both equally brilliant and weird. And it's worth referencing, because it's something that's a unique choice. And he's trying something different. I don't think it works. I think these pages needed to be structured a little bit better and laid out along with the binding. But it's Chaykin in 79, so he's going to do what he wants to do.
What would you say is peak Chaykin?
Peak Chaykin is probably the first 5 issues of American Flag from the 80s, but this is really reaching towards it. You're seeing Chaykin, he's still developing his style. He's still trying to settle into something. And then you get American Flag out of that, and then that's when the home runs hit. And then actually there's a great book if you want to talk about where Chaykin ends up. That could be something we could do in a few weeks. That might be really interesting. Because it's the quintessential what happens when you push the envelope too far. And Chaykin early, he ends up with a substance abuse problem, and he ends up doing some stuff that's so incredibly off the rails that it becomes offensive. Not in the sense of like nudity or I'm a prude offensive. It becomes offensive in the concept of just like, I'm trying to read something, and you used to be able to develop a coherent story and structure, and you're just jumping around for the sake of being shocking. It's kind of like, who's the guy that did like Hostel? What's that?
Oh God, Eli Roth.
Yeah, Chaykin Chaykin eventually drops off from doing this great experimental stuff where you're looking at it and it's like, man, you can see the wheels turning and he's trying to do something different with a format that's been very structured and very rigid. And he's trying to loosen it up and create a little bit of lucidity within the image. And then you can see how that devolves right into where like Eli Roth exists. And it's just it's just carnage for the sake of carnage and sexuality for the sake of sexuality. And there's no real art to it. It's just, we're just trying to be shocking for the sake of being shocking because I kind of lost my edge.
You mean like my dance number at the beginning?
Like your dance, that's a perfect example, yes. And that's where Chaykin ends up for a period of time before he drifts back. And where I think that's where he is today. I think he's at a more mature point, but he kind of peaks and then crashes, and then you get a different Chaykin that evolves from that in a metamorphosis kind of way. But it ends with this absolutely beautiful page, which again, he's really playing great with the negative space. Here he's playing with purple instead of white, but it's that same concept. He really understands shadow. He really understands depth and feel. And he understands with how you need to coexist with both the narration and the story and flow and draw a character together. So it's a really exceptional work. And you wanted to bring this one up, JP. That was something that you talked about earlier that I glossed over.
Oh yeah, I mean, this was one of many examples of. I know somebody who wrote a doctoral thesis about swords in literature, and I didn't read the paper, but you know how people say, like, you know, swords are basically penises. There's a lot of that in this book. There is definitely more cock than meets the eye, if you know what I mean.
Yes, there's a lot of phallic imagery. I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
Like here, like how about if I read this like Robert Loggia? The blade, sensing this presence, began to mewl, writhing out of its scabbard when. Sounds pretty gross, huh? And withdrew the pipe. Hush, girl. There's no one to hear your grunts. Yeah.
Yeah, and
at the end.
And this is unfortunately this is unfortunately one of those moments where some of the experimental aspects of Chaykin works because the gag in her mouth, she's dislocated her jaw at this point. That's a dislocated jaw. That's not good. Yeah, Caleb brings up a good point. I mean, have you read Den? No, I don't think JP has read Den, and that would probably be something that would be a good thing to cover on the gutter. But let's check in to see where you're at here, JP. Last time we checked, you were at 19 backers, and you're still at 19 backers. I was hoping to get to 20 by the end of the show, but we are reaching quickly the end of the show. We've actually run over a little bit, but over under, if you had to from your, and I understand it's been a busy week for you, but what were your thoughts on Michael Moorcock and Howard Chaykin's The Sword of Heaven, The Flower of Hell?
I almost feel like I want to develop a rating system. So I would say art 7 out of 10, story 5 out of 10, writing 7, like between a 6 and a 7 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I think this is a book that, especially the Titan reprint, that's very affordable at 18 to 20 for what you can get it for on the secondary market. I think this is a book that if you're really interested in some great layout work and some really experimental stuff from the late 70s, early 80s, early in Chaykin's career, it's a really, really affordable and one of the few, arguably, that's easily accessible thanks to Titan republishing it. I think they republished it in 2018, as I said. But it's a really nice window into that world. And man, if you're just a collector, it's just I think it's a fun book to read. If you're a creator, whether you're a writer or an artist, I think it's got some really good stuff that you can at least be inspired by, if not homage a little bit in your book. But with that being said, make sure you check out Eudaimonia Book 3. And before we close out, we're going to give JP a chance to pitch it to you one more time. So JP, let's pitch it, man. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Eudaimonia is my series about people finding and extracting meaning in their lives. I know it's a really vague topic, but I'm a writer that is more interested in small questions than large ones. And so, yeah, it's basically about how people find meaning and get meaning from things like war, music, a variety of things in their life. And this third book is really just a continuing exploration of that question. It's not an answer, it's just a question. So if you want to see some really gorgeous art, some really innovative, creative storytelling, yeah, give it a look. It's only like $15. That's cheap as hell. Do it.
Well, there you go. And on that note, I will be dropping the link in the description or in the chat if you want to join us in the back room. But from us to you, have a great night and make sure you back Eudaimonia. Have a great night, all.
This is blood for blood and by the gallons. This is the old days and the bad days, the all or nothing days. They're back. There's no choices left.
You still here? It's over. Go home. Go.